It's lights out and away we go. Hello, racers. Welcome back to the Harder Soft F1 podcast. I am your host, Adrian Huff, and I'm joined, as always, by my producer slash co-host, RJ McCullough. How's it going, RJ?
Hello, it's going well. I've been wanting to try this out for a few weeks, so yo, Adrian.
Oh God!
Sorry, I've had to try it. It didn't really work out well, but I'll give an alternate intro. Formula One is back in the land down under for the first time in a few years.
It is.
For you sick fucks out there, that means Australia. Yeah, so I want to start the podcast off with, in honor of Australia Week, I want to hear your best Daniel Ricciardo impression.
Oh, Jesus. Let's hear it. Okay. I like this. Let's fuck some shit up, mate.
That's pretty good, actually. You really hit it at the end there.
Yeah, the mate.
Yeah, I was just gonna be good day, mate.
Good day, mate. To
Good
those
day,
who
mate.
thought I left, I didn't leave. I'm still here, I think.
That's right. Not
Maybe.
too bad.
Hopefully he's still here next year. I fucking love Daniel Ricciardo. He's definitely the most charismatic driver to me on the grid. He's the most likable, if anything. He's just, if you could have a beer with one driver, it'd be Daniel Ricciardo.
Yes, I agree. I almost kind of got fooled by an April Fool's thing regarding him, because I saw on I guess the day before, so March 31st, I saw a quote from him that said when the Vegas news was announced, he said I was going to retire, but now that Vegas is on the calendar, I'm going to stick around. And then on April 1st, I see this quote from McLaren that's Daniel Ricciardo to retire at the end of the 2022 season. So I'm like, for a few seconds, I was like, wait, I just saw that yesterday. And then it clicked it's April 1st.
Yeah. I almost fell for the same thing, but with Lewis. It was like Lewis Hamilton retires at the end of 2022. And I literally went, what? Oh.
Yeah. See, these things could actually happen though. So it's not fair to joke about that.
No.
So do we want to do our first weigh-in, unless there's anything else you want to talk about?
No, yeah, absolutely. So mainly me, have had the idea to, throughout this 2022 season, sort of give me the opportunity to utilize that to help me continue to lose weight. And talked about it a little bit on a previous episode, but before the pandemic, I was very out of shape, very overweight. I've luckily lost 50 pounds since then, and I haven't been on a scale in over a year because sort of like midway through the pandemic, I just completely gave up on all weight loss after that 50 pounds, but that was definitely nowhere near the goal that I wanted to get to. But I just haven't really put any effort in the last year and a half. I've just been lazy. It's really the only way to put it, busy, but also just lazy, because you can make time for that stuff. So I'm using this podcast and this season of Formula One to sort of whip myself into shape and lose weight. We sort of toyed around with the idea of setting goals, and we still may come up with maybe midway goals before the season break, but just for right now, the main priority of this is just for me to try to hit my goal at the end of the season. And we did the first little weigh in. I was gonna get on the Zoom on my phone and try to do portable, but I just weighed myself right before the show. So, I was like, we won't have that much showmanship.
Okay. So, all right, drum roll.
So for some context, it's gonna seem pretty crazy, but I'm 6'3". I'm a stocky dude. You can tell I'm a big guy. But when I first started losing weight, the largest I ever was 330 pounds.
Wow.
Because some of our listeners will be, well, how many kilograms is that? I don't know. Google it. 330 pounds. I lost 50 pounds, 280, and that's actually right where I'm at. I'm at 280.9, something like that. So still a long way to go. But I mean, if you looked at photos of me from back then, you can just tell it's still, I wasn't enough to be on a reality show, but just didn't look great. I didn't feel great, but I feel a lot better now, and I'm just very excited for how I'm going to feel at the end of this. Just sort of taking this opportunity to get a little bit better and to improve an aspect of my life. The goal is by the end of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, I would like to get down to 230. I think that's a good goal. It's another 50, so that's 100 pounds. Cut it. I'll be happy there. 6'3", 230. I'll be happy with that.
Oh, well, that's amazing. Congratulations on getting under 300. That's a big milestone, and hopefully it's the last time you'll see the 3 be the first number on the scale. So
it will be for sure.
Yeah,
Definitely.
So that'll be exciting to do. And then in my neck of the woods, not too much in my personal life, but we did discuss this. I'm going to pull it up here. This list that came out this week that caught us both by surprise. It's the most marketable Canadian athletes globally. And I've got it up here. So Alphonso Davies is number one. Canada just qualified for the World Cup for the first time since, I want to say, 1986. Football/soccer. So congratulations to them. Shout out to them. But then after that, it's a wild list. So Tristan Thompson, most famous for all the Kardashian drama, Tristan Thompson is second on the list. And then Formula One's Lance Stroll comes in at third, ahead of Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, Mitch Marner, the 3 biggest Canadian-born hockey players, arguably. So, yeah, that's fascinating. And also, Jeannie Bouchard is still on the list, and I don't even think she competes anymore in tennis. Mm-hmm. She looks nice, but anyway,
just marketable.
Yeah, very marketable. So, yeah, this is globally marketable. There's only one NFL player on there, Chase Claypool, and then a couple more NBA players, Jamal Murray and Andrew Wiggins. But yeah, take a look at that list if at home, if you can. It's kind of surprising, but again, it's global rank. So yeah, any thoughts on that?
I'm not from Canada, of course, but of course, when I saw that, I just immediately sent it to you because it just caught me so off guard. And rip to Latifi, honestly, because he didn't make the list. He didn't make the cut. But I'm not from Canada, but is Lance Stroll a household name there? I know it's globally marketable, but I didn't picture Lance Stroll. Is he in a bunch of Geico commercials or something?
There is no. Before getting into F1, I didn't know who Lance Stroll was, and unless you're in Montreal or something, I haven't seen other than Toronto. So I haven't seen a single. There's no ads or anything. Even our billboards we have now. There's some billboards in the city up for the Montreal Grand Prix, which is just a few hours away, the drive, and they're all just a red car, basically a Ferrari without a logo. There's no Latifi or Stroll on the ones I've seen. So yeah, to answer your question in a roundabout way, he is as very, very far from a household name here in Canada. I think if you ask 10 Canadians, just average Canadians, I'd say maybe 1, maybe 2 would know who Lance Stroll is, whereas 10 out of 10 Canadians would know Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby.
Yeah, that's wild, especially just seeing how many NHL people are below Lance Stroll. I guess that speaks to how marketable Formula One is in general, worldwide. That picture we saw it was posted to the Formula One subreddit, by the way. That's where we saw it. We're actually trying to get our subreddit started. Hopefully we'll have that kind of rolling within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah,
of course, that's not.
We've had some problems on Reddit.
Yeah. Reddit is not super keen on up and coming podcasts. They don't want you to be able to do anything, but we have a subreddit and it's going well. We're kind of trying to push other socials right now, but once we start getting more regular streamers, regular viewers, we do plan to have a big active community on there, but we'll plug the socials at the end. But yeah, Lance Stroll, surprisingly popular worldwide. Who would have thought it?
Yeah, very surprising. But anyways, I guess we can keep on or start with our main topics. Keep it on Danny, since we kind of started with Danny and our good eye mate. But so I don't really know how this story came out. I've seen it actually from a few different angles, and like Danny was talking about it, Christian Horner was talking about it. But anyways, the story is Christian Horner had a quote that essentially at his time when Daniel Ricciardo left Red Bull for Renault, I believe it was, in 2019. Horner says Ricciardo turned down, quote, offers in front of him that were stratospheric, but Daniel could see Max in the ascendancy and he didn't want to become the second driver. So I guess my question to you, thoughts on that quote, obviously, and then with the benefit of hindsight, do you think Danny made the right decision leaving Red Bull, or do you think he should have stayed 1, 2, however many years?
Man, it's so tough putting yourself in someone else's shoes because I have no idea what the day-to-day life was like being on a team with Max Verstappen, being a guy who also wants to win a world championship. That is, I know Sergio wants to be a world champion, but he does seem to be a little bit more of a fit to be Max's teammate than I think Daniel would. But, looking at the hindsight of what he's done post Red Bull, you just gotta think like what could have happened if he had stayed with Red Bull and it's not the first time that they've had two world champion capable drivers on one team, it's not even the first time Red Bull has. So it's an interesting dynamic. It would have been, but if I was Daniel Ricciardo, I probably would have wished that I had stayed personally. Okay. Just because he hasn't had very much luck so far. And I know McLaren has a terrible car this year, and it seemed like he was starting to get into the swing of the 2021 car, but now the rug's just been pulled out from under that team and they may be getting bought. You don't know. So I'm sure his future in F1 is a little uncertain, especially that this is his last year under contract. If he's happier, great. But as far as like getting results and potentially being a world champion or fighting for a world championship, I think staying at Red Bull would have been the smarter option. But what do you think?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think even to take it one step further, I think it kind of worked out negatively for both sides because Red Bull has also sort of been searching for a second driver. Obviously, they found Checo now, but even like who's to say what Danny would be doing in that car if he had still been on that team? Yeah. But they could have been competing with Mercedes the last few years potentially if Danny had stayed on. Who knows? And then obviously for Danny's career, hasn't exactly gone that well. He won last year in Monza, which was great to see, but he's sort of the second, without saying it, he's sort of the second driver. I mean, they just re-signed Lando to like a 5-year deal, and he's like the face of the team, despite how charismatic Danny is. So yeah, I think it's not like a huge, I don't think he made like a massive career-defining mistake that he's going to regret for the rest of his life. But I do think, yeah, if you could pick one way or the other, I think he'd probably look back at it. I don't think he'd admit this, but I think if you were to look back at it, he'd probably have chosen to stay at Red Bull.
For sure. And even if it didn't result in him having a world title, it would have for sure made the fight between Red Bull and Mercedes way more heated throughout the years. And I'm sure Red Bull, of course, would have preferred if he had stayed because obviously with the Pierre drama and then Alex Albon somewhat being able to fill the shoes, but nowhere near being the capable driver that Daniel was and still is. He just, needs the right car for him. But yeah, that's one of those real cases of what if, it's fun to think about like what would have the constructors looked like or the world championship looked like, but we'll never know.
Yeah, that's right. So my segue from this to the next topic is going to be, so Danny mentioned he wants to stay on another year because of Vegas. So we got some more updates on the Vegas. That right there is how it's done in the podcasting game.
Yes, sir. I like it. Professional.
So we got some, I'll put up the graphic in the video. Check out our YouTube. We'll plug it all later, but I'll put up the graphic that I believe it was Formula One themselves that put out, sort of like the digital art of the track, which looks really cool. So a couple of details that we've got. It's going to be a 50 lap race on Vegas time Saturday night, depending on where you live in the world. It could be early Sunday morning, which is different. Obviously, it's been done before, but it's different. It's a 3.8 mile circuit with 14 corners. It could become the third longest track on the calendar behind Spa and Jeddah. And if Jeddah gets removed, then it's the second longest. And it's expected to be, I kind of jumped the gun a little bit by saying it is on Thanksgiving weekend. Blame social media because that's what I saw on social media. So of course I believe everything on social media. But yeah, it's probably that the rumor is that it's going to be around US Thanksgiving weekend. And obviously you would know this as an American, but for those who don't, you can explain this better than me, that US Thanksgiving is sort of like a Thursday to Sunday weekend event. Yes, no? Or is it like there's like Black Friday or whatever?
Yeah, the Black Friday is like the big shopping spree. It's kind of like the capitalist holiday that they've come up with to follow up Thanksgiving. But yeah, there's definitely like a spirit around Thanksgiving. The whole week pretty much is definitely, that's like all anybody talks about. And especially for travel, it's like the busiest travel weekend in the United States, or the travel week, that is. So I hope it's near Thanksgiving. That's just going to make so many more eyes or so many more spotlights shine on Formula One. It's going to draw so many more people to it. It's going to be amazing. And yeah, we definitely know a lot more about the track than we did last week. I will say, let me pull up the graphic.
Yeah.
We actually posted it to our Instagram.
Okay. While you do that, I did forget to mention probably the most important thing. So pardon me for that. But the fact that the racetrack is like revolves around the strip. The strip is like the main focal point, which is what everybody wanted. It doesn't look, I mean, it's digital art, so you can't really tell. It doesn't look necessarily like the most crazy track by any means, but you probably have the image up now. So yeah, go ahead with what you were going to say. I
was just going to say that some of these like turns I feel like they're a little liberal. If you look at the graphic, turn 10, there's just like, if this is a turn, like just slightly going to the left, we would need to look at like some other tracks like Australia to see if they technically count that as a turn. But I know there's a lot of complaints with some people that the track isn't exciting enough, or that it's not going to make for very good racing. But I feel like it will. That long straight is going to be like a DRS nightmare, especially for whoever's up in the front. It's going to be so sick. And I know some people really do not give a shit about Vegas or America at all, and they think it's ridiculous to have 3 tracks. But we talked about it last week, just how massive this country is, how many people there are. And yes, I do think the limit should be 3. I think the limit is going to stay at 3. But that being said, having a Formula One race down the strip in Vegas is just the coolest thing, bro. It's so cool. I want to see it.
Yeah, it's going to be so loud and so cool. There's going to be so many eyes on it. And look at like the Thanksgiving football. I mean, even here in Canada, that's like, we have a different Thanksgiving on a different date, but that might as well be a holiday here too, because you just sit and watch football all day. So you have that and the same week/weekend have an F1 race. It's just going to add to the whole sitting on your couch eating and feeling fantastic for the whole weekend, and then feeling guilty afterwards. But that's going to be amazing. I'm curious, because that's in the graphic, that straight looks huge, like so long. So I'm very curious, like Baku, for example, they have a really long straight at the end of the circuit. So I'm curious, like how it's going to stack up besides that, like in terms of longest straights. And if you see, like, for example, this year with Red Bull, how their car is just like even faster than Ferrari by a decent amount on the straights. If that straight is as long as it looks, Red Bull or whoever has the fastest car is going to be in for a good race, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I think this is like Azerbaijan does have that super long straight, but if you look at the layout for Vegas, it looks like it takes up almost half of the track is that straight. So, we'll see how it goes. The first race next year is going to be so exciting. I can't wait. I hope that more of the Formula One community and fandom kind of embraces it a little bit more, because it's only 3 years. If it sucks, if it's a terrible GP, then they won't renew it, or at least I hope not. They do renew courses like Jeddah, of course, but we'll see what happens. But it's going to be awesome. I'm personally super excited.
Yeah, no, I couldn't be more excited. I'm hoping that by we have till Thanksgiving 2023 potentially. Hoping by then we'll be doing well enough with this that we can actually attend in person. That would be unbelievable. I've never actually been to Vegas myself, so it's definitely on the bucket list, and I want to get there before I'm too old. So yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's just so exciting. I'm definitely looking forward to that. Just trying to think of a clever segue for this, but I've got nothing this time. I'll just go right into it. Guenther Steiner, we had his all-time legendary quote last week. I guess now you could say it's a bit of a he said against himself, because he says that he did not say something along the lines of he would fuck the whole paddock for points last year. I'm going to pull up the article here, and I'm going to play it again for us so we can make our own decision, because I think he did say it. So the clip starts, it's always disappointing. You always want maximum, But then if you think about it, you cannot be too greedy. Last year for 2 points, he says I would have hugged the whole paddock.
Oh, bullshit.
It sounds like he says fucked. I'm going to play it again. Hopefully you can hear it.
If you think about it, you cannot be too greedy. Last year for 2 points, I would have fucked the whole paddock.
I think that he was just trying to cover up that he said that. I definitely think he said it. If you listen to it, he does have a strange accent, but I'm going to say at least an 80% chance that he did, in fact, say he would have fucked the whole paddock for 2 points.
Yeah, I don't say hugged with K's, Guenther. I'm sorry.
Hooked.
We know what you said. We know.
Yeah. So there's not really too much to add on that. I just had to give an update to the people because that's what we do here.
Hey, we can transition to Schumacher's car.
Perfect. Stay on the HOS train.
Exactly.
The HOS ship, if you will, based on that unbelievable picture of Guenther. So yeah, Mick's car. There was obviously he had that horrible accident. And I thought that whole car, they were just gonna have to basically build a car from scratch. Like that thing was just junked based on the picture. So it appears, according to Guenther, that the chassis, the engine, and the battery pack are salvageable. Everything else was broken. Gearbox, some bodywork, the radiator, all gone. He estimates the cost to repair this car is going to be between $500,000 and $1 million.
Jesus,
very expensive. Was that second race of the year? Very expensive.
Yeah. People have been giving Schumacher some shit, but that corner gave so many drivers so much trouble this whole weekend. It was just, I think, bad luck. So big people need to ease up on him, give him some more weekends, let him get into the car. These are new cars, like brand new cars. Nobody has ever driven these before. So cut him some slack. Just happy that he's totally fine and that there's at least some salvageable things from his car, because it did not look that way. I mean, it just, it's terrible crash.
Yeah, it looked really bad. And I think we can say, I think it's been confirmed, yes, that he is racing this weekend or next weekend in Australia. So that's very good news. I guess with that, we can just move right on to Australia. We don't have too much because we're not trying to be the technical, like break everything down guys. We're more of the let's shoot the shit about it guys.
Yeah.
But again, I want to reiterate that the times, quali, and this is Eastern Standard Time, which I think we're both in. Yeah. Quali is 2 a.m. Saturday morning. So like if you stay up late Friday night, 2 a.m. Saturday morning. The race, 1 a.m. Sunday. Now, I'm just going to say, I don't want to hear or see, and I'm going to, but I don't want to hear or see any complaints about this online, because it is a world championship. It is not I live in the UK, so everything should be catered to me, or I live in Europe, or I live in North America, and this sucks because we have to stay up late or wake up early.
Yep.
Yeah. Australia has incredible fans. They haven't had a race. They have to deal with this every single race weekend. And I don't know if they just don't have much of a social footprint, but I had never seen an Australian complain about how they always have to wake up. This is the only time I actually do hear them, and their complaint is, hey, we have to do this all the time.
Yeah.
So yes, despite them being an island of convicts, they are good at not complaining. So that's just a little history joke.
Listen, you're from Canada. I'm from the US.
Yeah.
We understand. We also don't complain. But people in Europe, they have it good. You get to watch a Grand Prix at like 5 o'clock at night, 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yes.
We're waking up at 7 and 8 a.m., 7 out of 10 races, something like that. And we're not complaining. If you live on the West Coast, you're getting up at 5, 6 in the morning to watch a race. So I will happily stay up for this Australian qualifying and GP. I actually, I have a bachelor party that I'm going to that Saturday. So as soon as that's done, I'm getting out my phone or the TV, whatever, however I'm able to watch, and I will be watching the Grand Prix. So that's going to be super, super interesting. I will maybe do some live posting, especially if I'm a little tipsy, if you know what I mean. But yeah, that's going to be a blast. I hope people aren't complaining, because we have it the worst, me and you, 1 o'clock in the morning. Like, God.
I know, but hey, I'm it's just like, it changes it up every week, keeps it interesting. I don't know. like I wouldn't want it to be every weekend, but just for a kind of a one-off, maybe there's only a couple races that are going to be crazy like this. So I like it. It's going to be kind of cool to see. The only technical analysis that I'm going to give is stuff that I can notice from playing this track on the video game. And they have made a fair amount of changes to the track, mostly widening turns and stuff. But the one, are you pretty familiar with the track in the video game?
For sure.
Okay, so there's the one, like the very long straight. I think it's turn 9 and 10. It's very long straight, and it's before the last DRS zone. And then there's like a kind of like a little, so long straight, and then there's like a kind of little side turn that you go down straight, you turn a little bit left, and then it hooks around to the right, and then there's the DRS zone.
Yep.
So it's a very tricky, like, to get the speed and the braking zone, everything right, because you're basically just going from 8th gear to 7th gear and then turning around this very fast sweeping corner. It's tricky. So I say all that to say, thankfully, for those that play the video game and for those that are watching, they're removing that little side road. So it's just going to be one long straight, and they're apparently going to get up to like 330, 340 kilometers an hour. Let's assume they still have a DRS zone there. I think there was some complaints that people couldn't really pass much on this track. So they've made some good changes. It looks like they consulted a lot of the racers to see what they think should be done. So yeah, that's about as technical as I'm going to get on this podcast, but that's my understanding of it. I could also have those turns completely wrong, but hey, we're not going to try and say we're going to get everything right here. So that's how I understand it. I'm very excited to see that, because that one turn is the reason I sometimes don't even play that track, because I'll lose like 0.5, half a second, whatever, 0.5, right? Yeah, I'll lose so much time on that, like every lap, and it just pisses me right off, or I'll spin out and trying to get turned fast into the DRS corner. So
the amount of times I've used flashback on that corner is unbelievable, because you just slightly gun it to, and there's also that gravel patch when you come cook it back to the right and you just slightly skid, you're going into the wall. That's a fun track though. I try to play it every time I do the career mode. There's a couple of tracks that I admittedly do skip over though, but maybe we'll do a F1 game episode at some point.
Yeah, when they launch the new one, we'll definitely have to do that, because I'm excited for that. That's got to be like June or so.
Something like that. We've talked about this off air, but we're thinking about doing, we haven't really figured out if we're going to like record it or just talk about it, but we do want to do the 2-player online co-op career mode on the F1 2021 PlayStation 4 edition. So hopefully we'll be able to do that soon, but for now, yeah, absolutely. I definitely think that's something that we can do before the new game comes out.
Yeah, I think we can get in a good season, even if it's 23 races. And I'm gonna probably just purposely crash out at Monaco, because even if it's like a medium length race and you got to do like 20 laps or whatever, that video game, anyone that's played Monaco and F1 video games knows it's bordering on not fun at all. It's bordering on unplayable, and I usually do a 16 race season just so I can skip a few tracks such as that one.
No, I'm the same way. That first turn and that first straight is an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, and then you're just on the back foot the whole time. Just once you hit a wall, once you're done. So yeah, very, very tough. But do you have any, I guess, predictions or hopes? It's tough when you're this far out before they've even gotten to the track, especially when they make changes. I think us giving like our podium predictions and stuff, I don't know how much good that does, but is there anyone, like, I guess, hopes? Like, what are you hoping to see? What are you hoping to not see? Anything like that?
Of course, I'm sure you feel the same way. We want to see Danny Rick get some, if anything, get some points. It'd be awesome to see him actually place very well. Lando did pretty good this last weekend, but there were a lot of DNFs. So we'll have to see if they're able to improve the car a little bit by then. Besides Danny Rick, though, gosh, I just want more of the racing that we've been getting, more battles. And it'd be cool to see Mercedes be able to pick up the pace a little bit as well.
Yeah, that's kind of, obviously I'm biased, but that's sort of the main. I'm hoping it becomes a little closer with the horse race. There's rumors that Mercedes is going to bring a new, for lack of a better term, a new floor to the car.
The under tray.
Something like that, yeah. So I don't know how much of a difference that's going to make, because obviously Ferrari and Red Bull are continuing to improve their car as well. So you're always playing catch up, but it'd be nice to see. Hopefully Lewis has the proper setup this week. I fully expect him to at least be back in the points. But yeah, definitely want to see Danny in the points. Would like to see Lando, the top 5 or 6 would be nice. And then as much as I want Lewis to be in there, hey, give me another Max and Charles just back and forth, messing with each other, some more DRS chicken. Let's see how they've adapted their strategies, because it's going to be different now that they know, like, they're onto the DRS chicken, for lack of a better term. They're onto that game now. So what are they going to do? I also saw a kind of an opinion piece, and I'm curious, some people are pining that this Leclerc Verstappen DRS, what they're doing now, the DRS could be the end of DRS, because if they're just stopping to let each other go by, then maybe they'll just get rid of DRS in the future so they don't do that. I personally love DRS. I think it kind of evens the playing field a little bit, makes the races a lot more exciting. And it's always just, I don't know, you get a little rush when your guy is behind someone and he gets the DRS, like they get within that 1 second, like, oh, here we go. So I would hate to see the DRS go, but any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I want DRS to stay. I feel like that's only going to benefit the people at the front. It's going to really, really restrain guys in the midfield from overtaking each other. Because, I mean, we saw it in Jeddah. We saw the Alpines battle it out. And without DRS, one of them may have just stayed ahead the whole time. So I definitely think DRS should stay. It's up to the drivers just to come up with different strategies. I mean, every track is different. There's different DRS zones. Some are not right after the other. Some are right after the next corner, actually. But it definitely should stay. I think it's a little crazy to even toy around with the idea of getting rid of it, because then that just takes away like a whole extra element of the racing and just makes it a little bit easier. Not easier, but just less strategic, if anything, less opportunity. I don't know.
No, I 100% agree. I think we're both on the same page there. So on our little show notes, then we've got DTS thoughts. How do you want to do this?
I figure since it's already been a couple of weeks out, and since we have the Australian GP up, we can just kind of run through the episodes and give our brief summaries of each episode, our thoughts, and of course the overall season, because I definitely have a couple of thoughts on the show.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, I've got the episode list pulled up right here, courtesy of WTF1.com. Great podcast, great website,
great people.
Oh yeah, great people. We love them. We would love to get in touch with you guys. But season 4 of Drive to Survive came out almost a month ago, I think. I can't remember, but almost a month ago. Episode 1, Clash of the Titans. During the first episode, we're reintroduced to some familiar faces. Big driver moves are covered, and the addition of 3 new rookies to the grid. So yeah, the first episode to me almost felt like a recap of like the last season, because it kind of was. It was showed sort of the end of the 2020 season and gearing up for the 2021 season, and also introduced us to some new faces, a la Mick Schumacher, Nikita Mazepin, and Yuki Tsunoda. So that was cool to see. But I think I said this to you, the first episode did feel a little bit, I don't want to say boring, but it did feel just like a recap to me, and there wasn't really anything special about it.
Well, there was one very special moment in which Will Buxton felt the need to tell us multiple times that it's a race. If you're in first place, there's 19 other cars behind you. That's what you want. If you cross the finish line before the car behind you, you finish ahead of the car behind you. If you finish qualifying with a better time than the car behind you, you start the race ahead of that car. Like, all right, Will. All right.
Yeah. Dude, yeah. Netflix just thinks people are sitting there going, oh, wow.
That's how that works.
Wow. So you want to go fast. Wow. Okay.
Jeez.
I mean, we understand that the show is intended for to expand people or the audience of Formula One, of course, but it does seem a little ham-fisted. It seems almost like childish how it's explained. It's like, bro, season 1 felt like it explained Formula One better than this. Like, we understand drivers want to go fast. We understand that mindset. Like, let's dive deeper into this. It's season 4. We need to be getting in some crazy shit. Like, I want to know what like the inner workings of like Red Bull are. I want to see the drama. And we did get to see a lot of that, but it was more like surface level political stuff. So definitely biggest complaint from this episode and the season as a whole is that it was just edited to death. and it just felt way too simple for anybody that's even remotely familiar with F1.
Yeah, and a lot of the complaints center around, some people notice this more than I did, but a lot of like fake editing, where there's times where like a guy is, for example, some people are saying like when they're showing George, we'll get to his episode, when they're showing George Russell, his incredible lap at Spa, like he was going through a spot where would have been in second gear, and they're like using the audio of him in seventh gear, which is obviously way different, and just using like audio clips from previous moments, putting them in other moments to make it look like the most notorious one from the season is when Horner is talking to his wife, and clearly it's not, they're having a nice walk in the park, but the conversation is like, oh, this is a it's just like there's such an intense, like it's an intense conversation he's having about Red Bull, and there's no way that's what they were talking about in that moment. So there's a lot of stuff like that as a general complaint of the season.
Yeah, that transitions nicely. Episode 2, Ace in the Hole. Now racing for McLaren, Daniel Ricciardo sets out to prove that he's still a force on the track. Meanwhile, Lando Norris puts on the pressure. And one of the biggest editing slights, besides, when showing Max like win, it was one of like his later season wins, but then they showed like the audience in Zandvoort, or how do you pronounce that track?
Yeah, Zandvoort.
Zandvoort, but then you would see like reactions of people at Baku when he crashed. It's like it's not even attempting to seem like transparent.
Yes.
But in this episode, I believe they used an audio bite when the McLarens got close to each other, Lando saying he crashed into me or he pushed me off, something like that. And even Lando, I don't know if he tweeted or said in an interview, he was like, that was a totally different weekend to a totally different person. Like, I did not say that to my teammate. And that's my biggest problem with episode 2, is that they do try to build a little bit of like tension, which they do that every year. And, there may have been a little bit of tension when they first started, but you look at the videos that McLaren puts out with Daniel and Lando, and they seem like best buds now. Like, they may not have like the most in common, but like they're not bitter rivals. Like, let's stop with that shit. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that episode?
Yeah, I think that was the main takeaway for me as well, is that they sort of made Lando almost look like a bit of a dick. Even I think Verstappen has kind of used this as protection, as an example for him, as like, hey, look, like, why would I want to be on this show when look what they did to Lando, like one of the nicest, coolest guys on the grid. They made him look like a dick. So yeah, I definitely don't like that. But I mean, there's always going to be drama and stuff like that. It's unfortunate they had to choose that team. Was this because I think there's 2 McLaren episodes. Was this the episode we got to see Zach Brown playing hockey? Was that the next one?
Gosh, that might have been this episode, I think.
Because I love that. He's an American, right? Zach Brown?
Yes. Yeah, I believe so. Yes, he is, because in the Vegas announcement, he said, as an American, super excited.
Yeah, but he is a grit grinder out there. He took a couple of big tumbles. The boys must have been just fired up though when he come in the room with the camera, like, oh, I got Netflix here today. Oh, I love that. I love when they do those like scenes, like short scenes of guys in their own personal life. That was great. I love that whole thing.
So as like a bigger guy like Zach or like me, like, where would you put me? Would you, are we just getting stuck at goalie? Is that where we are?
I think defense is probably the way to go. You don't have to move around too much. Goalie is, it's kind of like if it was street hockey. Oh yeah. You're going back in net, just stay there, try to get hit by something. But a lot more like physically, you probably have to be arguably the most athletic guy on the team to play goalie in ice hockey. So yeah, I wouldn't do that unless we just tied you up to the posts. But yeah, he was kind of struggling out there. But I appreciate the hard work and the effort and the love that he had for the game. So that was great. Give me another one of those next season.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really like Zach Brown. I hope he stays in Formula One at least for the next couple of years. I know, and I'm sure we'll talk about this as it develops. With recent McLaren contract talks, that is that Audi has put in a bid for 600 million pounds, I think, something like that, something insane number, like 600 million to buy McLaren F1 team. So of course there's no comment, there's not even a notion of a remark of even if they're even considering it, but we will definitely keep that updated. But episode 3, Tipping Point, is next. Red Bull's Max Verstappen pulls off a string of victories. Lewis Hamilton of Mercedes struggles to keep pace later. An accident leads to controversy. And yes, this episode was the Silverstone episode. That's pretty much the main highlight. And honestly, to me, there's not much really to comment about it. Honestly, it seemed, honestly, to me, the best part about this season was how they kind of portrayed the Max and Lewis rivalry, because, and of course, I've only seen the season one time, but when I was watching it, it felt like they captured the intensity that the season had, like the tension that you felt during the race and right after the race during the weekend. You could feel that in the episode. So that's definitely my biggest like applaud to the show, because I felt it in this episode. It was intense.
Yeah, I thought this was one of the better looks at what we want from Drive to Survive. There was a lot of behind the scenes stuff that I didn't necessarily know. In fact, I thought it was fascinating that I believe it was this before the Silverstone race that Christian Horner essentially knew the Max and Lewis were going to crash that race, because I think they were beside each other on the grid, Verstappen was coming from behind Lewis, I believe, or maybe the other way around. But regardless, that's not the point. Like Horner kept saying, like, "Oh, this could get ugly. This could get spicy. Like, oh, I think we're in for a something interesting here today." I believe it was either then or Monza, but one of those two races where Horner he knew like Max isn't going to give in, and
all this
Lewis has had enough of moving out of the way for Max, and something's going to happen, and this is the race that's going to happen, and he was right
for sure. And I feel like this race was one of the rare times where you saw Lewis really push. And of course, it ended with the collision, but obviously it was Max the majority of the season who pushed the hardest. And he's definitely the reason they crashed at Monza. But it was just interesting that just Silverstone was just so fascinating. Just, how, of course, it being his home race definitely played into it. But the sort of message that Red Bull was pushing that weekend was that he intentionally did it, blah, blah, blah. Definitely not the case. He just made a really, really aggressive move, and it paid off for him, but it caused the crash. But racing incident, or did he get a penalty for that? He did.
He got a 10-second penalty.
Yeah, something like that, which of course he blew through and managed to catch up to Leclerc that Sunday. But yeah, it was really, really cool to see that rehashed again in the episode. And I feel like they definitely did a good job. Like, that was after episode 3, I was like, okay, this feels like Drive to Survive. I love it.
Yeah, there's another funny thing I just remember from that episode is the Lewis's 10-second drive-through penalty. Someone timed it. It took like 48 seconds on the show. They just like kept the camera over his car, like, and they cut to like him in the car, like, "Oh, I hate those moments. It feels like forever." I'm like, yeah. Well, and we're watching the show and it feels like forever because it was like a minute for a 10-second stop. Yeah,
I know, it's so infuriating, but I guess their excuse to be like, we're trying to just capture what it feels like as the driver because it feels like an eternity. It's like, we don't have to edit it to be an eternity. Like, come on. But no, I totally agree. It's insane. A good old Netflix.
Yes,
but
sir.
Episode 4, A Mountain to Climb. This is the HOS episode. The HOS team looks to reverse its recent fortunes with a new sponsor and 2 new rookie drivers, Nikita Mazepin and Mick Schumacher. I don't have very many thoughts besides fuck Mazepin, and boy, oh boy, I'm so happy for HOS and how they have progressed. Just the hindsight, the context, knowing how good they're doing now, how much things are looking up for them. It's just awesome because it just seemed like an absolute nightmare working with him and his dad. It seemed like they had a real toxic constraint, a real toxic grasp on the team. And it just seemed so depressing. I just felt for the team because it just did not look like a positive work environment. And it was all because of a rich, terrible ass driver who thought he deserved to be at the front. Just the way he blamed the car. He was like, him and his dad had the conspiracy that the cars were different. And they're like, well, we obviously make little tweaks depending on the driver, but the car is the fucking same. But then he managed to get 18th place in Russia. And all of a sudden he's like, I'm happy. I'm satisfied. I'm a great driver. It's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Can't stand him.
So cocky on his radio too. Like, you finished 18th of I believe 19 drivers that finished the race.
Yeah.
So, yeah, something to be real proud of there. But yeah, him and his dad just played the victim card over and over. I was glad to see they couldn't get a camera on it, but they had the mic on when Guenther kind of ripped into Nikita. Like, you just can't do this. You can't treat people like shit. And another thing, I don't think I had seen prior to this actually what Nikita's dad looked like. Yeah. And they are twins. I mean, obviously it's his dad's, they're gonna look similar, but I was laughing a few times because like just how similar they look and how similar their mannerisms and everything were. Like it's a clear father-son dynamic those two have, and just some of the most dislikable people I've ever seen on this show. Just I don't know, maybe I'm guessing they will feel that Netflix did them a disservice with the way they edited the episode, but as an F1 fan, I think we all wanted this, we all needed this, because it kind of gave us more. A lot of the reasons that we kind of disliked Nikita was just because he's clearly the worst driver on the grid, but this just gave us more fuel to add to that fire before he got booted. Was just, no, he's also a shit human being as far as we saw. So that was my main takeaway from that episode too.
Absolutely. It's so infuriating. And if he had been like a really, really sweet, nice, genuine guy, it would have been a lot harder to dislike him. And, I mean, Latifi has, recently, caused a lot of incidents, a lot of safety cars, but he's still a really nice guy and you still like the guy. I don't hate Latifi, but I hate Mazepin, bro. Cannot stand him. Absolutely terrible. I mean, and you're right though. They look exactly alike. It's scary. Like the little buzz blonde hair, they just look like cone heads with like spaghetti noodles.
So Russian and yeah. So they don't deserve any more of our time. Let's move on to the next episode.
Absolutely, yes. And I will say, him getting kicked off the team, fuck off back to Russia, gave us the glorious Kevin Magnussen back, and it has paid off amazingly. So happy for them, but we'll move on. We'll try to run through these a little bit faster. Episode 5, Staying Alive. Down but never out, McLaren's Daniel Ricciardo goes pedal to the metal in hopes of ruining Ferrari's homecoming at the Italian Grand Prix, which he did. There's not much to say about this episode, just besides I was so thrilled getting to see the build up, the crash between Max and Lewis again, and just the joy that he had from winning and seeing the shoey in that glorious HD. What else is there to say? It's just a really great feel good episode, and you just love to see it. Like, so cool. So happy. It
was fun. I think if they wouldn't have done an episode with showing Danny winning, because they always make a point of making him like one of the focal points of a storyline of a season, just because of the person he is. One thing I noticed in this episode, maybe it was just me being a stickler, but they had a lot of onboard cams that went on for a long time in this episode. Like they had showed like several laps of the race from onboard, and it's like, I don't know, like if we watched the race, we've already seen that usually. Right. So I kind of would have liked to see or hear some audio that we didn't necessarily get. Like I kind of want to see Danny maybe in like a private moment afterwards, celebrating. Maybe we did, but it didn't stand out to me. I don't remember it. But yeah, I think really. Like everything we saw, we had kind of already seen. I wanted to see maybe some more behind the scenes footage, of Danny. But overall, like I said, just a feel good, not too much takeaways from that episode. If I were going to rewatch the season, probably wouldn't be the first episode I would throw on, but it's a good episode overall. Yeah.
For sure. I wish we had seen more of like the McLaren garage. And I know we saw the engineers like celebrating, but like I want to hear the engineers like on the wall being like, holy shit. Like how do we keep this going? How do we keep this 1-2? Like, Lando, don't crash, don't pass him, keep this up, defend. Like that's the kind of shit I want to see. But that's sometimes something that you never get to see. You have to actually be at the Grand Prix on the team to get the little bits like that. But episode 6, A Point to Prove. With Williams Racing under new leadership, the story team looks to put its recent troubles in the rearview mirror and return to greatness. Yes, this is the Williams episode. Personally, I really, really enjoyed this episode because where this season Haas has sort of become like the underdogs that are like, they went from the literal worst team to now like midfielders, potentially even fighting for like a top 5 maybe even top 4 position. We'll see how the season goes. But last season, that was Williams for me. Anytime they were able to squeeze out a point or two, and then of course when George got pole, which knocked down to P2 at Spa, just absolutely so happy and thrilled. So seeing this episode was really cool. And personally, I know that the Williams family has so much cherished history in the sport, but Claire Williams, something about her episodes, it just, I don't know. I'm not going to say I disliked her, but it was more that I felt for her, because you could just tell like how much it meant to her and how just hard they tried to like relive the glory days of her dad, Sir Frank Williams, rest in peace, of course. But yeah, seeing the fresh faces at the Williams team, I thought was really cool.
Yeah, what the was it Yost Tost, something like that? The new that's Let's Go Racing, their main guy. He like great to see the spotlight on him. I didn't really know much about him prior to this. I think this might be my favorite episode of the season. I love when they do like the deep dives on teams and the history of Williams, and of course, as you said, Sir Frank Williams. He passed last year during the season, I believe it was. So sort of a nice send off to him. And yeah, they're unfortunately for them, they're sort of the new HOS of this year, but it's everyone likes to root for an underdog, and I'm definitely going to be, keeping an eye on them, especially with Canadian on there. So yeah, I mean, just, yeah, a nice fun episode. Good to see some of those moments with George. I believe this is the episode that they showed the behind the scenes stuff, him actually making the deal with Toto. So like to join Mercedes. So yeah, there was some pretty cool stuff in there.
Yeah, they actually showed the moment, and I remember on the Formula One subreddit, like when the weekend actually happened, where you saw Toto and George talking, like sort of like behind the paddock in like this little alley area where they thought nobody was watching besides Netflix, of course. And somebody posted a picture of them and was like, I wonder if they're talking about a contract or whatever. So much speculation. And then it turned out that, yeah, that was exactly what was happening. So that was like some of my favorite like portions of the episode, was seeing him talk to, or just seeing the rumors and the dynamic of if he was going to go to Mercedes, and then the behind the scenes talks. I just thought that was really, really cool. So awesome to see. But we can continue to the next episode 7, Growing Pains. They have the raw talent, but can they handle the pressure? Now Yuki Tsunoda and Esteban Ocon must sink or swim in the rough waters of Formula One. So yes, this episode was a AlphaTauri Alpine focused episode. And I'll say that personally, my favorite was seeing the behind the scenes of Yuki. He cracks me up. He is so funny. The way he just like his language, just his attitude, his demeanor was so funny. And then they had to move him. They had to move him to another country. They're like, you know what? It's too boring here. We're going to put you somewhere else where you will wake up early in the morning and train, get in a routine every single day. Cause I guess he was just like sitting around doing nothing basically at that like old England town. So that was so funny to me, and just really cool to see like the dynamic and the behind the scenes life of a rookie Formula One driver.
Yeah, no, that was just some, I don't know about intentional or unintentional comedy, but that episode did have me laughing. Yuki, he is all of us. Like he doesn't want to work out. His place was beyond messy. Like that place was filthy. And he could not stop talking about poop and how he always has to poop. And he's just so open. And his like radio onboards are so funny. Like they had a very good cut of him in an interview being so like innocent and kind of cute, to be honest, and like just this fun-loving little guy. And then they cut to his onboard, and he's like, I don't even want to say the words that he used, because he is just, you motherfuckers, this fucking cunt, like blah blah blah. He's like, I guess they said he learned English from F1, so that's why he's so vulgar. But yeah, it was it was cool to see that side of Yuki. Maybe not my favorite episode overall, but yeah, definitely some interesting things that we didn't get to see. And yeah, how they moved him from that little boring town to to I believe it was somewhere in Italy, so we could be with, was it one of the team principals or something of that nature, but one of the higher up guys with Red Bull and or AlphaTauri, one or the other. But yeah, it was interesting that he just did not want to work out, hated it, complained it every time, every moment. It's just like the typical like 20-year-old guy, wherever he is.
Yeah, that was amazing. I already liked Yuki, but just seeing that episode made me like him so much more. And it really made me admire, I don't know if it's AlphaTauri or Red Bull or whoever made that decision, but just showing the care and the training and the effort that they're putting into their rookie drivers. Like, that's really, really cool to see. But besides that, the Alpine, it was just sort of, it of course showed Esteban's win, which was really, really cool. They surprisingly, we saw no coverage of Aston Martin this season. They didn't even mention Vettel's disqualification at all. So I don't know if Lawrence Stroll was just like, fuck off Netflix, want nothing to do with you. Who knows? But I personally just thought that was a little odd, not to even mention, because seeing Sebastian Vettel on a podium was just like amazing. But definitely Yuki's the highlight of that episode for sure. But let's see. Episode 8. Rumors fly about whether an up-and-coming driver. Oh, okay. So we were wrong. It was this episode. Okay. Whoops. Episode 8, Dances with Wolf. Rumors fly about whether an up-and-coming driver, George Russell, will join Hamilton on Team Mercedes, potentially leaving Valtteri Bottas without a seat. There's one seat at Mercedes for 2022 opposite Lewis Hamilton. Will Toto Wolff choose the safe option and stick with Valtteri Bottas, or take a risk and promote George Russell to the drive? And looking back, knowing that what actually happens was somewhat interesting, and you can sort of feel the pressure that they were under to make the right decision. But what were your thoughts as a Mercedes fan seeing this all go down?
I don't have too many like memories from this episode, to be honest with you. But while it was going down, yeah, it was sort of a strange, because I do like Bottas. I like him a lot, but with the intensity of the season last year, there were just too many moments where he just wasn't in it. Like, he just wasn't in the fight, or he was too far back, or he made a silly mistake, or he started off horrible, or he wasn't able to support Lewis, whatever the case may be. So I'm not gonna lie, I was hoping for a different driver, nothing against Bottas. And without being able to get like Lando or like, I don't know, one of the Ferrari guys or something, like, I think George is the next up and coming potential guy that could win a world championship. So yeah, I think I was overall happy with it. They kept putting it off. I don't know if they showed this that much in the doc, but in real time, they just kept putting off the announcement, putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. And I think it's because Toto was trying to find Valtteri another drive because he didn't want to leave him hanging. But yeah, while it was going on in real time, it was sort of like just the thing that it was almost like the worst kept secret, that it was like, hey, Bottas isn't re-signing. And then it was just a rumor for a long time that it was going to be George. And then finally it came true. And yeah, there was a picture that leaked of, I don't know if it was them hugging or shaking hands or whatever, but yeah, it was, once we knew, it was like, okay, that actually was real, even though they obviously denied it. But yeah, that was sort of my takeaway. Not too many memories from the episode, but I definitely brought back some memories of when it was actually happening, for sure.
Sure. And I know we pretty much already talked about this episode because we thought it was the previous episode, but I definitely agree with you. It seems definitely that he was trying to just work things out with Bottas. And that is my biggest takeaway from this episode, is I loved seeing all the Toto Wolff videos. Like, he was just, even him talking about how he likes his pumpernickel to snap like a cookie. It's like, I like that. I like that. I just like, because, and also I feel like the biggest highlight, or sorry, not highlight, but like the most surprise, like, guest was not any of the reporters or any of the drivers. It was his wife. I thought every single time she was giving like an interview, it was just like, I was like, this is amazing advice, dude. Like, I can see why they're like one of the biggest like power couples in motorsport. Like, so cool to see. But
she was fascinating. Susie Wolff and their son, I think it's Jack, just like one of the cutest, like straight out of a magazine or something, just the cutest kid. Every time he was talking or doing something at the table, I just had a little smile on my face. Like, that kid is adorable. And yeah, every time he's getting his toast in the morning, Toto and the pumpernickel, like, he's just great. I've said it before, I'll say it again, I love Toto. So yeah, I actually forgot that was that episode, so I'm glad you brought that up, because of the sort of family dynamic. like Toto's got it pretty much everything going for him. Like his life is great. So
For sure.
yeah,
Oh,
he's obviously
yeah.
got a lot of stresses because he puts that on himself. So yeah,
Yeah.
just great family. So that was really cool. I did really enjoy that. I'll admit that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean he's if not already, he will be considered like one of the most, if not the most successful team principal in Formula One. Just absolutely dominated the Turbohydrate era. Like, I mean, no other team won a constructors in that era. So yeah, he'll always be considered one of the greats. I love Toto Wolff, even though I'm not the biggest Mercedes fan. I would all day rather watch Toto and Susie talk about racing than Christian and Ginger Spice, like honestly. But we can move on to the final 2 episodes. Of course, it covers the Abu Dhabi scandal, I guess you could say, or the whole build up to the final Grand Prix. So we've already talked about the final race. We've gone into pretty big or pretty like fine detail for that weekend, but what was your sort of thoughts seeing those last 3 Grand Prix sort of brought into those 2 episodes?
I'm getting triggered. So just trigger warning, getting upset. So yeah, definitely. I'll give Netflix credit. They did a good job of bringing back that intensity and that just the feelings that I had starting. I mean, they missed a lot of the Brazil stuff that I thought sort of kicked off the most intense part of the season, but I'll get to what I thought they missed at the end. But yeah, Jeddah, really cool. And then yeah, if we want to kind of just wrap these 2 into one, I mean, Abu Dhabi, there was a few issues I had with the episode. One being that they did a very good job of explaining all the intricacies of the Lewis Max battle and sort of the fiasco. But this is a bit inside baseball, as they say, but I wish they would have mentioned before the restart with 1 lap left that in Abu Dhabi that Lewis was on old hard tires and Max was on fresh soft tires, which because to me that's like no matter who was racing there. I mean, Max still made a good move to get past him, but there was pretty much no chance once they made that decision. Like it was like, and I wish that was the one thing that I don't think they made clear enough was that Lewis really had no chance once they made that decision. So it wasn't let's go racing because they didn't give Lewis a chance. And yeah, I think they did a good job though of painting the picture. They had a really, really cool like montage, I guess you could say, like as the lights were slowly going out and they were cutting to Lewis's helmet and Max's helmet and building up the scenes. And the final
was so sick.
Yeah, and then I mentioned this last week, the week before, but the final scene of the entire season where they show Toto, the just Red Bull have a target on their back for the season, and everybody has a target on their back for this season. And he's wearing all black, and he just looks like the Terminator, sounds like the Terminator.
Yeah, dude, your impression is 10 out of 10, by the way.
I've been working on it.
It's great. It is excellent.
Yeah, so that's pretty much my main thoughts on this. I'd say overall, very good job. Definitely, after I watched it, I had to compose myself for a few minutes because I was pissed. It brought back all the anger and all the just how unfair it was. And I will give Netflix credit because the main thing I would have thrown my TV out the window if they would have not taken the stance, which they did. Give them credit. They did pretty definitively say this, like Lewis got screwed. This wasn't fair. So I'll give them credit for doing that because I was very worried they were just going to be like objective, like pull themselves out and not make a opinion on it kind of, but they showed everyone saying like that wasn't right. So
for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it just, I will always remember the reaction to watching that race live. So I was rooting for Max so hard, but in the moment, you know, it was so exciting, but even at the safety car restart, I was like, Max is on fresh tires, Lewis is on old mediums. I was like, this is exciting, but it feels wrong. Like it just feels so wrong. But just so many emotions. And yeah, they took the stance that I definitely have, is that it was the FIA's fault. Like whether the Red Bull engineer influenced them, both teams were in their ear. So I definitely think they shined a big spotlight on obviously the biggest issue with last season. Thankfully, they've taken steps to fixing that and to improving the Marshall situation, or not the Stewart situation. But yeah, it's still hard to watch, because even though it gave Max Verstappen his first championship of most likely many in his career, but it just still doesn't feel right.
Leaves a bitter taste, but hopefully it won't be Lewis's last chance at one, because that'll always just, like I said, I'll never forget that feeling. It's just feeling robbed as a Lewis fan, just so deflated, and just it was so unfair.
I personally think Lewis will stick around for, at the bare minimum, one more season. And oh my gosh, special guest. Oh my God, little Bogey.
Yep, this is Bogey. This is my French bulldog, Bogey.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she
okay.
She wanted to come over and say hi.
Yes. So yeah, my girlfriend, you already know this, but my girlfriend is the biggest fan of French bulldogs. She adores them. She tells me we're gonna have one day, so I guess I'm gonna have one day. But yeah, so adorable. I cannot wait to show her that. She's gonna love it. But yeah, oh my gosh, so cute. Yes, so that pretty much recaps the season 4 of Drive to Survive. I'm pretty sure we covered almost everything. Oh yeah, what you got?
I just had a few quick notes that I had written down, things I think they missed overall in the season.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
And again, some of this, I don't know if you can blame Netflix, because maybe they just weren't allowed to film certain things. But for me, Kimi Räikkönen's final season not even being mentioned in the entire season was wild. Like, obviously he's not a guy that wants to be on camera. No chance they were going to do a whole episode on him. But to do like a 3-4 minute montage of his career or something, like, that was insane that they didn't mention that.
Yeah, that is wild. And you mentioning that's like the first I've even seen of people complaining about that.
Yeah, I wrote that down right after. Like, what is going on here?
Maybe I haven't read like very many complaints, but like, yeah, no, I'm full agreement. That's bullshit. They should have done that.
Insane. So a few other quick ones. In episode 10, this is just a minor complaint, but they were hyping up this race. They did that huge montage of Lewis and Max, and then they start the first lap, and they cut to like 30 seconds of Lando and Carlos Sainz just battling each other, which had nothing to do with the race at all. And you could see in the frame that they used, you could see ahead. I believe it was when Max went for the move on Lewis, or one of the two made a move, and you could see it at the top of the screen. So like, anyone that was watching that wasn't even paying attention to the Lando Sainz thing. I just thought that was crazy that they did that, but not really a huge issue.
I think they were taking a book out of the F1's TV race director. They were wanting to show the midfield while the front guys are battling. Like
they built up the whole season. And then just a few small other things. They didn't do a good enough job, I think, of showing Fernando Alonso's defense of Lewis on the Ocon win, because you could give Alonso as much credit as Esteban essentially for that win. I wanted to see more of Lando in Russia when he kind of choked that win away. I hate to say it. And then the other thing, Baku, they didn't really like with what happened with Max's tires, and like Lewis with the magic brakes button or whatever they accidentally pressed. They kind of showed it a little bit, but it was like a flash. I wanted that. So those were the few things, the storylines that they didn't have that I wanted to see that they missed. So I just wanted to add that in real quick before we wrap up.
Dude, no, I totally agree. And the only other thing that I wish they had included, and you mentioned this a few minutes ago, is they didn't show anything from his incredibles from the sprint to the Grand Prix of Lewis in Brazil. We didn't see any of that. We didn't see any of that.
Yeah, that was huge. Like that, they didn't show also like the turn 4 Max Lewis thing. Like they kind of showed it a little bit, but when Lewis kind of got run off the road by Max, or it was a Max that went really wide and they didn't give him a penalty, whatever the case may be, that to me was when the rivalry really picked up. That was when it went from, okay, we're having a good battle, to, oh no, this is intense. Because like Lewis was like, how are they not giving him a penalty? Toto was complaining, and then they were going back and forth with Christian. And Max was pissed and everyone was pissed, and Lewis came back and won from last place, had all those penalties and stuff. That was an incredible thing that they definitely missed. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you.
Oh yeah. And I think you're right. Silverstone felt like sort of like the start, like where the flame was lit, but Brazil was when like they poured the gas on it. And looking back, you now know, like, I wish I could have told myself back then, it's like, oh, get used to this. This is the rest of the season, is this bullshit right here. It's going to cause you so much stress.
Obviously Monza as well, but was those 3 moments would have made for an awesome episode, just to focus like how it heated up between Silverstone to Monza to Brazil to Abu Dhabi, and well, Jeddah too, and then Abu Dhabi. Just insanity. So
yeah,
but overall, I think I enjoyed the season.
Oh yeah, they'll never capture, like, when I first watched the first 2 seasons and binged them, I'll never experience that again. Getting to first experience Formula One, get a view inside of it, inside the sport as a new fan, a fresh fan, was just so cool. And now I'm a little jaded, you know, it doesn't hit the same as like the real content, but it's understandable. I still enjoyed it. I understand Max's take or his position to not be on the show. I do understand that their editing choices are, you know, a little, or leave a lot to be desired, but I understand his take on that, choosing not to participate. That's understandable, but definitely my biggest complaint is no shout out to Kimi Räikkönen for his final race, because huge legend. I mean, I saw a post the other day that I wish I remembered the year, but when he signed for Ferrari, he was in like the top 10 paid athletes of all time. Like Kimi Räikkönen's Ferrari contract is to this day one of the most lucrative, expensive athlete contracts of all time. Wow. And I don't think people give him enough credit, I guess, because of his, like, towards the end of his career, he didn't get to do a whole lot, but I mean, he got a championship for Ferrari. He was the last one to do it. So
yeah, and his from Finland, so like his finish, the way he's just so direct, and on his, like, some of his radios were so funny, just like when he didn't have his water, or they just like, let me finish the race on my own. Just such an old grumpy man. Yeah, very, very funny. And I guess one last thing I wanted to mention, this is an evergreen statement: fuck Christian Horner.
Oh God. I'll say
all season he pisses me off, because all the time they would give to Max, they just double it onto Christian. So he's just played such a, like, there was a few times where he's just trying to turn the tide to make Mercedes the villains. Even, I guess they are the villains as well. They both are. But sometimes I was just like, when he's complaining about Toto, like, Toto doesn't get it. Shut up, Toto. You shut up, Christian. You shut
the fuck up. No,
yeah, that's pretty much all I had on it. I mean, yeah, that's all I had.
I'll say I feel similar ways towards Helmut Marko as a Red Bull fan, but I feel like we covered everything. One thing I wanted to mention at the top of the show, this has nothing to do with Drive to Survive. This has to do with the Australian GP. Did you see that Fernando Alonso is already on his 3rd gearbox?
No.
Yes.
After 3rd race, I guess so. Like,
so shit. It's very likely that he's going to be getting some penalty points and some grid drops throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah. So you get 3 for the year?
Something like that. Yeah. And I think I'd have to look at the graph. We can address this next time, but Max is a couple of penalties away from getting banned from a race. So you're a couple. I feel like that'll be a good segment for maybe next week, or maybe the bye week following. We'll talk about the penalty points, but is there anything you want to talk about or add on before we sign off?
We might have some exciting new news coming in the next few weeks, potential new member of the team, but we're not going to really go into that in case it doesn't happen. And we have we've had some great communication with some other F1 podcasts or YouTubers and stuff like that. So we're going to have some cool guests coming on soon, and we're getting some really cool advice. We're posting a lot on social. One of the piece of advice we got was go big on vertical clips, the short 1 minute or less vertical clips. So we've been pumping those out. We had some great views on them, like surprisingly good views on them, considering how small we are as a podcast at this point. So yeah, that's pretty much all I had. If you want to give the socials, and that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, like you said, on Instagram, we're posting reels of our clips. We're posting TikToks. We're posting to YouTube shorts. Those are little like 1 minute vertical clips, but we're also posting clips from the podcast to our YouTube channel in video. We're still very early. We're still figuring out things, but those pretty much get posted, or they're going to start getting posted throughout the week in between episodes. So it's all not just getting dropped at once. But like usual, the podcasts come out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts on Monday. And then the clips and the video and the shorts and all that come out throughout the week following. But yes, if you want to check us out on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, it is the Hard or Soft F1 Podcast. And on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, it is at Hard or Soft F1. But yes, thank you all so much for watching. We have big plans. We have a confirmed guest coming on either next week or the week following. We're still trying to work out the dates with this person, but we're super excited for that. And we're trying to get more guests, more F1 personalities. So if you have anybody that you think would be interested in coming on the show, or anybody you want us to reach out to, comment below, follow us on all of our social media. And thank you so much for watching. Rate us 5 stars, do whatever you can to help us get this show out there, because we both, at the end of the day, have a immense passion for this sport, and the whole point of the show is for us to just be able to talk about the sport and to get us more involved in it. We're just very excited. So lots of big stuff coming.
Yes, and I'm going to close with, get in there, Lewis. We need another podium this weekend. Good day, mate.
Oh, no.
We will talk next week.
Oh my, let's hope. Lewis podium. He said it next week, Australia. All right. See you guys.